on, everyone? I'm Harry Potvin, and welcome back for another episode of the H Panel, the show where we bring on guests from all different backgrounds to talk mental health. Today, I have the pleasure of being joined by swimmer Maddy Banic. Former University of Tennessee and ISL competitor for the LA Current, Maddy saw success very early in her impressive career, coming out of high school as a Virginia State record holder in the 100 backstroke for 15 to 16-year-old girls. This success was followed by college, where she earned 5 medals at her first SEC championships in 2016, 5 more in her sophomore year, along with a gold in the 50 free, medals in both the SEC and NCAA championships in her third year, and finally wrapping up the fourth as both a captain of the team and a national champion at the 2019 NCAAs. With best time short course yards of 21:54 50 free, 48:70 for 100 free, and 51:19 for 100 fly, this is a very impressive resume to say the least. Maddy, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Before we get too into it, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself, where you grew up, why you chose swimming as a sport, stuff like that.
Ooh, okay. So I've kind of lived all over the place, actually. I was born in Houston, Texas, and we moved all along the, Midwest, East growing up. But I say I'm mainly from Virginia because that's where I went to high school. And I don't know, swimming kind of chose me. I tried everything growing up, soccer, track and field, all sorts of sports like that. And I just was never very good at land sports or honestly team sports. I was a very competitive person. I didn't really want to share the ball in any sport I did. So, but my parents threw me in the water for swim lessons one day, and my swim instructor was immediately to my parents like, she needs to be a swimmer. Like it's just in her. And so I finally got on a swim team when I was 10, I think 9 or 10. And I just fell in love with it, and I've been doing it ever since.
Awesome. Yeah, that's the thing, swimmers, I know a lot of us have the worst hand-eye coordination on the planet. So
yes.
It's if you put us in any other sport, it's like, oh, you're a swimmer. Okay, I get it. So my first question for you, Maddy, what was the transition from high school athletics to college athletics like for you?
So I personally loved it. I was a big fan of the transition. My freshman year was awesome. But in high school, when I was swimming, we would swim, and my school district started at 7:20 every morning. High school started, and so we would swim from 4:15 to 6:15 every morning. So I was getting up around 3:30.
Wow.
Every morning in high school to go swim.
Yeah.
And then we do it again after school. So it was 2 days every day with super early mornings and super late nights because of schoolwork. When I got to college, everything was a little later. It was still like a 5:30 practice, but to me that was amazing. And we didn't swim twice a day every day. We got to throw in weights. I'd never done weights in high school. The yardage changed. I got to specialize a little bit in my sprinting, and I wasn't doing crazy 10,000 yard practices anymore. Between the weights and focusing on my events, I saw really, really fast improvement. And it was just, I personally thought it was really, really fun to get results that fast.
A kind of theme I've seen when I've talked to a bunch of athletes is pre-performance anxiety. Mm-hmm. So how are some ways that you personally have been able to deal with any pre-race anxiety? And do those tips and tricks kind of differ depending on the level of competition?
I would say no. I think one of the big things with having kind of a way to calm your nerves or I wouldn't even say calm your nerves. Nerves are very important for when you race, but to kind of use them towards your advantage is you have to practice what you're going to do before your race all the time. So whether that be a really small meet or a time trial or nationals or Olympic trials, you got to be able to have that down and practice it, and it'll work that much better the more you figure it out and tweak it and find out what works for you. But our team actually, while I was in college, we worked with a sports psychologist every day before practice, and he would lead us through a little visualization type of exercise where we visualize our races. We would literally walk up to the blocks, practice being behind the blocks, getting up on the blocks, going so far as to take our mark, and all before practice had even started. Sometimes we were still in our clothes. So it was just that daily repetition of, figuring out what personally calms you down or helps you kind of corral those nerves into something you can use positively in your race. And for me, I'm a person who has to get amped up before I race. I like to kind of almost let a little bit of nerve out before I even go off the blocks. And I'm a really silly person behind the blocks, so I usually try to, find a teammate, find someone I know, chat with them, talk with them, just kind of stay loose behind the blocks. But one of the last things I do, I especially did this in college, before I step up on the blocks, is I'd always take a really deep breath and I'd always say to myself, do it for him, relating to God, and do it for your lady balls. And that would always put me in the right mind zone. It would, kind of remind me that what's going to happen is going to happen. What's supposed to happen is going to happen. My lady balls are behind me. My teammates are behind me. They're going to love me no matter how the race goes, how well I do, how poorly I do. So that always helped me kind of focus everything, all my nerves into what I was about to do. So that's personally one of the things I do.
Nice. Yeah, something I found worked for me was kind of like, because whenever I went behind the blocks, I would always overthink, like, no matter what. So my dad was like, just try to just go back there and trust your training. And like you said, what's gonna happen, like what's meant to happen will happen. So just kind of do your own thing and see what happens after. So my next question for you is, how do you find a balance? Because you said you like getting hyped before races. How do you find a balance between getting overhyped and underhyped for a race?
Ooh, wow. I just kind of feel it out. It's kind of something you play with, and especially at a club level, if you're a club level swimmer, like you have multiple races within a day, so you have plenty of time to play with it. But there definitely is like a limit of, there will be some times where, especially if I get in my own head, I'm very bad at getting in my own head. So I know that, like, if I'm not talking to anyone before my race, or I'm being really quiet as I'm walking up to the block or even behind the block, like not trying to find someone to talk to, then I know, like, I can usually recognize that and be like, all right, Maddie, like, you're not amped up enough for this. Get going, have some fun, like, because I have figured out what works for me. And I'd say I very rarely get overexcited. I'm a sprinter, and so I believe that before you get behind the block, like, you have to be calm, but you also need everything to kind of be turned on and racing, and going, so you can immediately start sprinting, so you don't get a 500 to work up to it. I don't know. I don't know that I've ever been overly amped precisely, but I do, because I personally, when I'm overly nervous, I shut down. But yeah, there definitely is a balance, and you kind of have to play with what works for you. And I don't know, it's all just a trial and error, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. So my next question is kind of broad, but what is your journey with mental health is the big question I got for you.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That is broad. I would say my mental health journey probably started when I was a junior in high school. I started USA level swimming at that point. So I'd been doing YMCA level swimming, like nothing crazy, a couple of practices a week for like an hour. It was more just fun, and it was something I was good at, so I kept doing it. But then I had the opportunity to join a USA level team, and I knew that could take me through college. And so I joined that, and as I said, I got up at 3:30 every morning to go to practice. Went to school for 8 hours. Went back to training until around 5, and then I'd go home and do homework until like 11 or 12, and then do it all again the next day. So high school was a bit of a blur for me. I don't remember a lot of it. I do remember, like, just constantly being very overwhelmed, because I was also in band. I was a band nerd.
Nice.
I was also a part of a lot of clubs in school, and I was a big leader in my church, and so I had a lot of obligations, a lot of things I was juggling at once. And I'm a perfectionist, so I did not allow myself to slip in any of it. So high school was kind of hard, and I just kind of held on till college, because I knew college would be, a new sense of freedom. And so my freshman year was awesome. I got to get away from my hometown and, kind of do what I wanted. Swimming became really, really fun. I loved not having to go to school straight for 8 hours a day. Kind of getting to do my own thing, and, I didn't mind living with a roommate. I had a great roommate. We had a great time. So freshman year was really, really fun, but I kind of shoved everything that I felt in high school down. And it wasn't until sophomore year that it all started bubbling up, really. I started to get really overwhelmed again. My grades weren't great. My swimming, honestly, wasn't bad, which is really surprising, but I was missing a lot of practices. I was getting sick a lot. And eventually I was diagnosed with depression and anxiety the summer of my sophomore year. And so, or the summer of my freshman year, I'm sorry, the summer of my freshman year. And so sophomore year kind of took a turn, just I was really mad at everything. I was really upset at everything. I started drinking a lot, and no one really noticed or cared because that's kind of the culture in college, the drinking. And, I just started hating swimming. I started not wanting to be around people. I shut myself in my room forever. I wouldn't really eat much. And, I just kind of went down this dark rabbit hole that no one could really pull me out of. I couldn't really even pull myself out of it. And so my sophomore year, actually, I think it was my junior year. It was the summer of my sophomore year. I actually decided at one point that I was like done. I was done with it. I didn't want to hurt people anymore. I was constantly hurting people and hurting myself, and nothing was working. I tried meds. I'd seen a psychiatrist, a therapist, everything, the works. And I just decided one Sunday that I was done with it. And I actually went and collected all the medicine I had in my house, and I wrote goodbye letters. And I actually texted my therapist one more time, like a one last cry for help. And she got a hold of my roommates, who actually ended up busting down my door and stopping me from doing anything that I would regret. And I'm eternally grateful for them for stopping me. But at that point, I decided that I really was going to need some help. And so I left for a month at the beginning of my junior year to go to an inpatient treatment center in Chicago. So I went into that for a month, and I came back to school, which was really hard because with NCAA rules, I wasn't a student anymore. I was actually technically considered a bit of a recruit. So it was hard to get back into training because I wasn't allowed to use facilities or talk to my coaches. So I had to kind of go around the rules. I actually joined the club team that trains here. And I trained with the master swimmers for a month and joined the YMCA and, lifted there and just got kind of creative with my training. And I was able to come back the December of my junior year. So once the second semester started, I could re-enroll as a student. So I came back, and that was really challenging. I'd burned a lot of bridges when I had left, and a lot of the team didn't trust me. They didn't trust that I was any different than I was. I did have a group of friends who never left my side and was always there for me, and I'm eternally grateful for them. But a bit of it, it was a challenge coming back. But I was really determined to better myself. I wanted to better myself as a human. I wanted to better myself as a teammate. And my love for my Lady Balls has never ever changed throughout all of this. I've always loved them and wanted to be my best for them. So that kind of fueled me through the hard times. And I went through the second half of my junior year. I worked all summer at becoming a better teammate, rebuilding relationships, becoming a better leader, and I got voted captain my senior year, which was such an honor for me. And it really showed that everything that I had been trying to work on with myself it wasn't just me telling myself I was better. I had some validation from my teammates that I was becoming who I wanted to be. And so, and then graduated senior year, and I'm a pro swimmer now. And I definitely wouldn't say my mental health has gone away. It's actually been the quarantine has been challenging for anyone with mental health, I would say, for sure. So I've had my ups and downs for sure, but sometimes you just have to go through that rock bottom basically to figure everything out. But yeah, now I like to share my story and help where I can, and hope it reaches the right person and helps someone. But yeah, so in the short version, that's it.
Perfect. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's awesome. I say this time and time again. It's so important to have athletes open up about their stories because there aren't that many people that share them, but when they do, they're all relatively similar. So we're all going through this, not the same thing obviously, but we're going through a similar situation, but no one's talking.
Yeah.
And it would be so much easier if we just kept going. So that's awesome that you're sharing your story and doing everything. That's perfect. So going back to the inpatient center in Chicago, I'm sure like before you went to seek help, you were a tad hesitant.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, like before I went to go, I pushed down therapy for maybe 3 years because I was like, I don't need that crap.
Yeah.
So what would you personally say to someone who may be hesitant to get the help they need simply because, they don't want to be viewed as either weak or insane?
I would say, there's such a stigma around it, which is so hard. But and I'll say the same thing. Like when I first went and talked to a therapist, I did do it voluntarily because one of my best friends was like, "You should go," and I trusted her a ton. And she had been seeing her too, and I was like, "Okay, fine, I'll try it." It took me a long time to really open up with my therapist, but you know, I don't think it shows you as weak. If anything, I just think it shows you have more courage because you're kind of going against like what everyone's saying, like the stigma around it. And I really think even in this day and age, there's less stigma than there ever has been, which is huge.
Yeah.
But I would say, just take that step. Like you just sometimes like one step can get the ball rolling, and there's not always going to be like trudging along. Like each decision is harder and harder. Like I think especially with therapy, like you go once, like you might like it, you might not, but at some point you're really going to feel a difference. It's one of those things where if you've been bottling something up for so long and you finally go and you talk to someone that's confidential, you let it out, it can really, really take a weight off your shoulders. I don't think people realize that until they actually do it. While there may be a stigma around it, like it does take a lot of courage to go. And I think that it really, really does have its benefits. And I know at least in the NCAA, it's becoming more and more common there's actually a rule passed last January, that the Power Five conferences have to provide a sports psychologist or a like therapist to all their athletes. So I know at least at our school, going and talking to someone is not weird at all. In fact, almost everyone I know has seen our therapist. We have multiple at some point or another, and it's really helped everyone. It's really helped everyone's athletic performance, life performance. I don't know. I just think it's a really good step, and it can be hard to take it, but once you do it, like you're gonna be glad you did.
I didn't know about that rule. That's really cool.
Yeah, it was like not this past January, but the January before, like 2019.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I hope that translates to Canada because we need it up here, man. Let me tell you. And I guess, yeah, the other thing about therapy, like, yeah, the challenge is going, but also like the first couple times are so uncomfortable.
Oh yeah.
And
Definitely.
I don't think people like I wish I had asked that before I went because I had tried to go a couple times and every time I was like, I hate this. This is terrible.
Yeah.
So I switched therapists like 4 times because I was like, it's uncomfortable. I don't like them. And I was like, is everyone this uncomfortable?
Well, it's definitely. I mean, you're sharing like the hardship you've been through to like a complete stranger, so it's definitely weird at the beginning, but you form a relationship. I think I did anyway.
So when I was captain for my university swim team this past year, and for a lot of my childhood, because I was the oldest swimmer at my home club since 13 because we went through a rebuilding stage. I felt like there was this added responsibility to be kind of the strongest in the room and to never really show weakness because as a rookie and a young kid looking up to the captains from back then, that's just kind of how we saw them because mental health wasn't really talked about before like a couple years ago, or it wasn't really normalized. So that being said, what would you say to someone who's maybe like in a position such as a captain of a team and maybe having trouble opening up to their team?
Ooh, I would say, and I kind of live by this when I was a captain, is the more human you are, the more respect you're going to get from your teammates. Anyone can go up there, turn into a bossy leader that never feels anything and is just there to, just hold the fort down. But it's very, very hard to gain respect if you can't show your teammates that you're on the same level they are. Like you're human, they're human, everyone has their ups and downs. And I really tried to do that when I was captain. Be really, like, you can be a strong leader and be empathetic at the same time. So I just say that, there are girls on my team that I never would have connected with if I hadn't shared some of my struggles, even in the moment. Like, there were plenty of conversations I had with girls of going through something and me saying, I'm going through the same thing, or I've been through this before, and here's what I did. Here's how I leaned on someone. Like, you're welcome to lean on me. I can go talk with someone with you, or talk to the coaches with you. If you're just always ruling with an iron fist or acting like nothing's ever wrong with you, then I think that just makes you more intimidating and harder to come to when someone is struggling. So that would be my advice. You'd be surprised. I don't think my teammates looked at me with any less of like, oh, she shouldn't be leading, like she's broken, she's hurt. Like, if anything, it made them want to support me more and follow me into battle even more, I'd say.
Yeah, definitely. It was always really hard to relate to the guys who like stone cold, like emotions aren't a thing. I'd be like, okay, well, if I'm sad, I'm not coming to you then.
My senior year, or my freshman year, our seniors were kind of like that. Like, there were a couple of them that were fine, but there were a couple of them that were like very like stone cold seniors, and I mean, they let us, but it definitely was difficult to reach out if something was wrong.
Yeah, definitely. So for anyone watching, stay open. Leading into the next question, so you said that your teammates, surprisingly, it was a pretty positive reception. Like they wanted to go into battle with you more after you opened up. So on that note, what was the reception like from your family and friends when you finally opened up about your depression? Because I know that for a lot of people, myself included, that was probably the major thing that was holding me back from ever like accepting it, because I was scared as to what like my friends and family would kind of view me as afterwards.
I would say I didn't necessarily have a hard time with my friends, because my friends were around me so much that they kind of knew what was going on. And I've always been a person to lean on my friends even when something is wrong. So they kind of knew what was going on. And when I told them I had depression and anxiety, they weren't really surprised. And from just those 2 years in high school, like, I don't think it really surprised my parents either. I think I was actually the last person to know that something was really wrong, because it took me so long to, actually finally ask for help and go see someone. But they were like, everyone was always very supportive. Even when I hurt people, like, they'd still have my back. And, my mom's always been there for me, and my dad. So I didn't have much struggle with telling people, for sure.
Swimming kind of gives you hours upon hours inside your own head and with your own thoughts. How do you think this affects your mental health?
Ooh, I mean, I think it can go one of two ways. I mean, I had plenty while in college, but I still have days now that I can really talk myself into a hole while I'm swimming. And especially when I was going, like, my sophomore year, when I was, poorly dealing with my depression and anxiety, it was very easy for me to just talk myself into a hole in practice. And one of my biggest thoughts I remember is I don't want to train. I don't want to swim. I feel like I'm in pain all day, and I don't want to spend another 2 hours in pain, just like putting myself through that. So it's very easy to get myself worked up, because you get to talk to someone for maybe like 10 seconds on a wall, or you get to like stop to listen to sets. But like, most of swimming is spent in your own head. Like, even music playing outside, like, you can't hear when you're swimming. I mean, I think it can be what you make it, like, one of the things that I'm really trying to work on, especially now, is that positive self-talk while I'm swimming, because it's very easy to just be like, man, this hurts. Like, I'm not going fast. Like, I don't want to do this. Like, she's beating me. He's beating me. Not hitting my times I want to. But, swimming is definitely one of those sports where it's up to you to figure out your mentality. Like, you don't, like, I know for me personally, like, I love the weight room, and I've have discovered that one of the reasons I love the weight room is because if I'm doing something that's really hard, or getting ready to do something really hard, it's very easy to amp myself up. I have music, I have people screaming at me, I have a coach right behind me, like, I can hear everything, and I'm a very sound and touch, like, motivated person. And so I think that's one of the reasons I really like the weight room. So I'm working on getting better at that in the pool, when you can't hear anything except your own breathing. I think it is huge for mental health, and it definitely that's interesting. I've never really thought about that, but a ton. But yeah, I guess if you aren't in a great place, it's going to be very hard to, stay in a good mindset while you're swimming. But I'm also one of those people that when I get to the wall, like I'm talking to someone. I mean, as long as I'm not like out of breath, but
Yeah.
I'm talking to someone, yelling at someone, like we'll like be screaming song lyrics at each other when we're on the wall. And so, you got to make it kind of positive while you can, as well.
So your coach, Matt, if I get this name wrong, I'm sorry, Kredich,
Yes, that's right.
said in a video, and I'm kind of paraphrasing here, anyone who considers themselves a strong, fearless athlete to speak about vulnerability and this battle that they can't overcome by themselves takes a lot of courage. So there's this massive stigma around depression and suicide. Obviously, it's getting a little less of a stigma, but it seems to be like a different kind of beast towards athletes because we're always like perceived as having the strongest mentality and the strongest, physicality. So how can we slowly kind of break down this stigma and normalize the mental health struggles that many athletes face behind the scenes?
I had a mentor say this to me once, and I totally agree with her. And it's always in my head whenever someone asks this question: is people just need to share their stories, and that's not like a pressuring of anyone to share their story. Like everyone has their story, and it's everyone's like own business on if they whether to share it or whether to share it or keep it to themselves. But I think the more stories that get shared and the more people who have the courage to come out and share what they've been through, the more like normal, I guess, or less stigmatized this will become. There wasn't a huge like role model I had that made me go to therapy, but I did have teammates who shared their own little stories, even just with me personally, that really kind of swayed me into doing what needed to be done. If people share more what they're going through, even like you don't have to share it to the whole world, but even just to each other, like just get a little closer, be a little more open, then it will become a lot less stigmatized. And that can happen just by like one little story at a time to one other person, or you can share it to everyone, like I try to do. But I definitely think that talking about it is going to be what helps the situation.
Absolutely, yeah. I like if I'm just thinking back, like if I had had that, like you said, role model who
Mm-hmm.
like came out and was like, "Hey, I'm struggling through something. I'm going to therapy. Like this is what's going on." I feel like I would have maybe been more comfortable to open up way earlier. So
Yeah.
these conversations have to keep going. So everyone, like, even maybe like, yeah, our kind of generation, but even for younger generations that are coming up, like if they can see that older people are like, "Hey, I'm sad too." They'd be like, "Oh, okay, I'm allowed to open up. It's not scary." What are some ways that friends and family can help if someone they know is suicidal or depressed? And then to follow that up, what are some don'ts if they know someone who's suicidal and depressed?
Ooh. Um. I would say. I would say that if you suspect someone is suicidal or depressed, well, those are kind of like completely different things to tackle.
Yeah.
If you think someone's depressed, I'd say for both technically, is just to be there for them. Just know you're not going to be able to fix it. Like you're not going to be able to make it better, but having that ear to like listen or that shoulder to lean on can make all the difference in the world while someone is trying to like figure it out. I think also like um, not forcing therapy down someone's throat, but like gently suggesting it or offering to go with them or help set up an appointment. Make it easy for them. That can help. I think that can go a long way. I say if someone is suicidal, it depends on what like stage they're in of that. But be really supportive, and if you have to, like you something that I was told was like it doesn't matter how mad you think they're gonna get for stepping in or stopping them or calling someone. You're gonna save their life. They'll get over it. Like they will forgive you.
Yeah.
So I definitely say if it gets to that point, then do what needs to be done. But just be supportive. I would say one of the things that I wouldn't do, and I know this is hard for people. I know I put people through this, and I know I've been through this with other people. Is people that are mentally ill, especially if they're depressed or suicidal, are probably going to say things that are very mean, very disrespectful, because they just want you to leave them alone. They want you to go away. Um, and I think one of the best things you can do as someone who's trying to help them is to not take those things personally, and know that that's not your friend or your family member who's talking. Like, it's the mental illness that's talking, and they do love you, and they are grateful for you, and they might just be saying that in the moment as like a survival tactic, because that's what their body's in, is like a fight or flight mode. And I know it's hard to like not take everything they say really personally, but I think losing a family member or friend, when you're going through something like that, can be, that can be what pushes you over the edge. And so I just say, support them for as much as you can, as long as you can. Everyone has their limits, but if you really do want to help, then that's what I would suggest for sure.
Awesome. My final question, it's kind of a big question I have for this season because, with everything going on right now, it's kind of nuts.
Yeah.
So, with all of these things like the pandemic and kind of the racial tension and the movement that's going on right now, it can take a massive toll on one's mental health if you're just scrolling through the news and looking at all the headlines, especially because sometimes it seems like there isn't much hope left if you're just reading the headlines and you're not looking at anything else. So how are you personally able to keep hope and stay positive in times like this where it seems almost impossible?
Oh, wow. I'd like to start off by saying I definitely have not been perfect during this quarantine. I've definitely had my days where I've not gotten out of bed, slipped back to old habits. Everyone has their moments. Like, just because I'm a mental health advocate doesn't mean that I'm perfect. But I don't know. I think something for me is I try to stay connected with people. A lot of my teammates aren't here. I probably have 6 teammates who are in Knoxville, but a lot of them are, in their respective hometowns. But I try to stay connected with them. I try to, do little self-care type of things, not stay on social media all day long. I've recently taken up cross stitching.
Nice.
So I've been doing that a bit. I like painting. I love watching TV. I love napping. I have a dog, so I take her on walks and we go outside a lot. But I don't know. I just think it's very important, especially in this day and age, to be able to unplug for a second. And I, almost feel bad saying that, because there are people who are going through the racial injustice who can't just walk away from it. But I think for everyone's mental health, you do have to be social media has always been a huge thing in mental health. And now it is more so than ever because of everything going on. But you have to be able to do things to take care of yourself. And especially in quarantine, all we have is time. So that's not really a good excuse to use anymore. I don't have time to take care of myself.
I'm too busy. Too busy.
Yeah, definitely. So I don't know. For me, I'm just trying to, I still train. We're able to train where I live. So I train. I have tried to take on new hobbies. I try to focus on what I'm eating, trying new recipes and things like that. For me, I just have to keep myself busy. If I am stagnant for too long, then I can slip into a hole. So that's what I'd say for me. Yeah.
And with that, those are all my questions. Maddy, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me and letting me share my story.
Before we go, I have a set of rapid fire questions for this season of my show.
Okay.
So I'm just gonna throw them your way. So number 1 is, what are your top 5 singers, rappers, musicians, dead or alive right now?
Oh, wow. Okay, so I'm a huge Demi Lovato fan, so love her. I love Halsey. I like DaBaby.
Nice.
That was 3. Black Bear is also a favorite. And, I don't know. Eminem. I like Eminem.
Nice. That might have been the fastest answer to number 1 I've had yet. So well done. Wow.
No, I know it. I'm such a geek, but I have loved Demi Lovato since her Disney days.
That's awesome. So number 2, two of my guilty pleasure foods, comfort foods, are pizza and chicken wings. So for
Yeah.
you, which one takes the crown? And then I have an additional question depending on which.
Definitely pizza.
Pizza? Nice.
Yep.
So for pizza, your favorite pizza joint, top 3 toppings, and does pineapple belong on pizza?
Yes, pineapple belongs on pizza.
Perfect.
I always put pineapple on my pizza. Always.
Yep.
But my favorite pizza joint in Knoxville is called South Coast Pizza, and it's like a block from my house, and they have it's called the Island Home, and it has pineapple, sausage, sun-dried tomatoes, and spinach on it. And that's my favorite.
Nice.
And ranch. Gotta have ranch on pizza.
Ranch, yes. That's a big one. Your top 3 shows or movies that got you through quarantine up to this point.
Ooh, okay. So I'm a big Grey's Anatomy fan, so I went through that for a 4th time. And I recently just watched Outer Banks because I heard all about it, and so I watched that. It was okay. And then I'm actually watching In the Dark right now, which season 2 just came out, and so I'm watching that now.
Nice, awesome. And then finally, if there's a viewer going through a similar experience to the one you went through, what would you want them to hear?
Oh, wow. I'd want them to hear that, you have a lot more support behind you than you think. Like, you feel, like, really alone, and you feel like you've cut everyone off, but there are a lot of people in your corner, and you may not be able to see it now, and you might have to go through a few steps, a couple difficult decisions to, get back on track, but you do have a lot of people in your corner, and you have people that are rooting for you, and when you get the help you need and, kind of take care of yourself, like, you're going to make them so genuinely happy. And you're one of those people. Yeah, that's what I'd say.
Perfect. Wise words from Maddy Banic. And with that, we are done. Once again, thank you so much for joining me. And to all my viewers, I will see you next time. Thank you for watching another episode of the H Panel. I really appreciate you guys. For more episodes of the H Panel, click this button right here. And if you want to subscribe for more videos from myself, subscribe is right down below. Thanks, guys.